Testing, testing. Testing, testing. We're good?
All right, everybody, we need about an extra 3 or 4 minutes just to do a IT quick update, so please be patient. Good evening, everyone. Not to hold up the meeting any longer as we're getting the IT issue worked out. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, starting with our roll call, starting from my far left, Mr. Scott Ostrin, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Ms. Laura Newman, Associate Superintendent of Business and Operation, Ms. Dana Schultz, Board Trustee, Dr. William Hender, Board Vice President, Dr. Jordan Cox, Superintendent, myself, Steve Hartman, Board President. To my right, Ms. Sue Herman, Board Trustee, Mr. Tim Russo, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, Ms. Mara Harvey, District Counsel, and Ms. Debbie Verga, District Clerk. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Cox.
All right, I think before we get started this evening, we do have some student recognition. I think Mrs. Berger has the certificates, but we're going to get started. So just to give a little bit of background on this, the students that we're recognizing tonight came with Mrs. Lippenholtz and I to present at a New York State School Board's presentation in New York City. And the presentation was about connecting high school students with future careers. So there were a handful of students, as many students within our high school, that have been able to connect, whether it's through experiences that were not so good, to realize that maybe education or business or medicine or health sciences or engineering might not be their forte, but they had that opportunity here in high school and kind of switched gears, and eventually, whether it was through an internship, fell in love with what they wanted to do and had a very clear vision of what they wanted to do post-secondary. So of course, anytime we get the chance to present, if we can bring students with us, it's the best part of the presentation. We had members of the audience ask questions to our students, and as a result of the questions and answer session, we had a number of school districts across New York State that wanted to come and visit Commack High School to figure out ways to replicate some of the programs that we have there. So there's a few students that were with us that evening that we would like to recognize. First up, Mehek Soni. Congratulations. from what I understand, Mehek, were you recently accepted to Harvard University? Yeah. Let's give Mehek a round of applause. That's quite an accomplishment. You make us so proud. Natalie Barr. Natalie, come on up. Here you go. And I'm just going to recognize the two other names because we are live. So Ishana Chada, and we also had Max Lamberg, who also presented with us, and they really did a phenomenal job. They were the star of the show. Adam, would you like us to stand up in the middle? Would the board like to come up for a picture? Congratulations. We're so proud of you. And I think some of them are coming back to continue to take this show on the road to present with some additional officials who are going to be coming. As a matter of fact, on January 6th, the day we come back from the break, we're actually having Regent Tillis come and visit Commack High School and learn a little bit more about some of our programs and hopefully become an advocate at the state level. So come on over here, folks. Let's. Awesome. I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great job. Awesome. Thanks, Gary. I think at this point we're moving on to our administrative report, Mr. Hartman.
That's correct.
So we have a number of items, a variety of items that we're going to be discussing this evening. First up is going to be a policy update that Dr. Inforner will walk us through that process. There has been a number of conversations in our community about property tax bill, and I want to do my best to be as transparent as possible and share information with our residents on how their tax bill is calculated and some of the factors that go into it. We're going to do a quick security update, where we are with that in terms of armed security. We're going to talk a little bit about regionalization, which was an initiative by the New York State Education Department. So we're going to share some of the most current updates when it comes to regionalization, and then we'll have a discussion on what direction we want to move in with that. And then we're very excited for Mrs. Longo to present our State of the District science presentation, and then at the end we'll have some committee updates. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Dr. Inforner to come up and take us through our policy update.
Alrighty, thank you. So every month or so I come up here and we talk about policies, and sometimes that's about a change that happened with a single policy. But along with our services, we do engage in an annual audit of the entire book. You know, if you've been coming to meetings for a while, in 2019, we redid the entire book. We worked with the board for months, took a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and we got the book completely up to date. And it's been running in maintenance mode since then. On an annual basis, BOCES is really great in providing us a complete annual audit, looking at every policy the board has, and whether it's due to a change in federal or state law or regulation, they provide us with recommendations for updates so that we know that our policy book is always as up to date as possible. So with that said, we are engaged in that process. We're here tonight to look at phase 1 of our policy audit for this school year. It is an annual audit. Phase 1 includes the 1000 series and the 3000 series. If you were to look at our book, 1000 series is the bylaws of the board, and the 3000 is related to community relations. This is a multi-phase annual comprehensive audit. At the bottom there is kind of Mike's wish list for when these things might occur. There are a number of policies, and we might take a little longer, maybe not. We'll see how it goes. Tonight is 8 policies between the 2 series. But as we look towards the future, you know, there are quite a number in some future series coming up. So that's our anticipated timeline for this comprehensive audit. It is our goal by April, May for the board to have whatever policies need to be updated to be completely updated, and our book to be up to date. And then a few months later will be July, and then we'll get, you know, another annual audit, and we'll be back, you know, here. So with that said, there are four policies in the 1,000 series, the bylaws. We like to provide, information for the public as well as the board. The board certainly has, all the information they need to consider the policies tonight. But you can see across the top, these four policies in this series, they're not legally required policies, but they are ones that we currently have. My watch is talking, sorry. But there are ones that we certainly have, and therefore we need to keep up to date. So when you look, for example, at the duties of the extra classroom treasurer, or if you look for at the regular board meeting policy, that are there, those policies are being up to date because of rules and regulations related to law. So I will share, any updates here tonight in these 8 policies are really law or regulation based. They come due to updates. In the 3,000 series, you can see 4 policies here that required updates as well. But I think it's important to point out that, yes, we have all those policies, so we have to keep them up to date, but 3 of those are legally required policies that every school district must have. And again, you can see related to the why we are updating those, whether it's the Freedom of Information Act or whether it's Title IX or whatever the case may be. These are updates related to updates to the law or regulation. So in keeping our policy book as up to date as possible, we look at what changes occurred in the law, and then we make the relevant changes to our policies. The process, BOCES sent us over the recommended policy changes. We look at it as a leadership team. We engage the board policy review committee. We engage our legal team. And after all those things are done, we present them to the board tonight for consideration, and that will show up later in the agenda. So with that overview, this is the first phase, if you will, for the policy audit. And with that, we'll see if there's any questions from the board.
So I know the board had a chance to look at these. They're on the agenda this evening. We decided to start this phase of the policy update with, for the most part, as Dr. Inforna said, policies that really had updated language that was in line with current or new regulation or law. So, any questions from the board?
Questions?
All right, thank you, Dr. Inforna. Okay, so moving on to the property tax bill update. So what I'm going to share with you here is that every year the district puts out a budget. So if you look at the 23-24 side, the tax levy that we went to the community with was $152,660,104. In 24-25, the tax levy increase, as you can see there, is 1.99. So it went from the 152 million to the 155 million. However, there are a number of other things that play a factor in your school taxes. So when we put out a tax levy for 1.99, we're basically telling the town of Smithtown and Huntington, this is what we need from our residents to run our school district. What happens is there is something that is put together, 2 items I'm going to share with you. One is called an equalization rate. The equalization rate is calculated by the total assessed value of all the homes in the town of Huntington for Commack residents. And there's also an equalization rate that's provided for the assessed value for all the homes in the town of Smithtown. That equalization rate is provided by the state. The way they calculate it is the equalization rate is the total assessed value for all of the homes in the town of Huntington divided by the market value of those homes. And it's the same. They do it for Huntington, they do it for the town of Smithtown. When they take the assessed value, when the state provides this number to us, the assessed value is provided to the state by the town. The market value of the homes is determined by the state. And what that equalization rate does, and I'll give you an example. In some of the districts on the South Shore, let's just pick the town of Islip. Some of them, that's the only taxing jurisdiction they deal with, is the town of Islip. So in that town, the tax levy is spread, for the most part, equally, depending on where you live, the size of your home, et cetera, equally. The equalization rate doesn't play a factor. However, in Commack, we have two taxing jurisdictions. That's the town of Huntington and the town of Smithtown. When that equalization rate is provided by the state, again, it's the total assessed value divided by the market value. Assessed value provided by the town, market value provided by the state. You divide those two, you get the equalization rate. If the equalization rate goes down, then the equalization rate determines in the town of Smithtown and the town of Huntington who's going to carry the bigger tax burden. So if the assessed value, if the equalization rate goes down more in the town of Huntington, and I'm sharing that because that's what happened, the equalization rate went down when it was provided by the state, more in the town of Huntington than the town of Smithtown. So when you take a look at this slide, in the town of Huntington in 23-24, the tax levy out of the 152,660,104, town of Huntington was responsible for 60 million of that, and the town of Smithtown was responsible for 92 million of that. Reason being that the numbers are higher in the town of Smithtown. There's more residents and homes in the town of Smithtown that are Commack residents than there are in the town of Huntington with Commack residents. So that's why you see the difference between the 92 and the 60 million. However, if we look at 2024-25, the town, which is this year, this is the year that you're seeing a rise in the town of Huntington of your tax bill. And the reason being is the town of Huntington went from being responsible for 60,208,169 to 65 million, an increase of 65 million, which is a result of the equalization rate. The town of Smithtown, their equalization rate did not go down as far as the town of Huntington. So you'll see that in the town of Smithtown, where they were responsible for 92 million last year, they're responsible for 90 million. So the town of Huntington increased by $5 million, and the town of Smithtown decreased by $2 million, which caused a shift in that burden to the town of Huntington. Now, a lot of times when we talk about the total assessed value, remember the equalization rate, total assessed value divided by the market value, total assessed value is determined by the town. A large portion for why assessed values go down is because if you have more individuals' residences that grieve their taxes and they are granted by the town, it lowers the assessed value. So in the town of Huntington, there was a lower assessed value, which I'll get to. So when you're asking why, the town of Huntington decreased the total assessed values of the homes in the town of Huntington for Commack residents by $190,000. The state of New York lowered the equalization rate, resulting in a tax rate increase higher in the town of Huntington. The tax rate that you see on your bill is determined. It's a different calculation than equalization rate. They take the tax levy. So if you remember before, the 65 million there that the town of Huntington is responsible for covering for this year, they take that number and they divide it by the total assessed value of the homes in the town of Huntington. If the total assessed value in the town of Huntington for all the homes goes down in Commack School District, when you do that calculation, the tax rate goes up. So if you look at the tax bill in the town of Huntington, you'll probably see something along the lines of 3.55, somewhere along there as the tax rate, or 3.35. The difference between last year and this year, it went up almost $30, that tax rate. And so that's a large reason for why the town of Huntington is seeing a hit. It's almost like a double whammy. The assessed values came down, so when they calculate the tax rate's higher. When the state provided the equalization rate to determine who's going to carry the heavier burden, town of Smithtown or town of Huntington, it shifted to the town of Huntington. The town determines, again, the assessed values. The state determines the equalization rate. And the school district has no input in these figures. And if we look at our history of what we've asked our community to approve the budget, you can see that we've been very conservative with less than 2% increases year over year over year. but I know many of you are seeing 8%, 10% increases in your tax bill. It doesn't make sense, right, when you see this, because those other factors play an influence. And I'm going to give you an example on this last slide. Let's say, for illustration purposes only, that last year's tax levy to the community was $152 million, and we kept it exactly the same this year at 0%. Based on the equalization rate, the town of Huntington would have went from being responsible last year for $60 million to $63 million. The town of Smithtown would have went from being responsible for $92 million to $88 million. That's an increase for the town of Huntington residents in the Commack by $3.6 million, and a decrease in the town of Smithtown by $3.6 million. Again, this is if there was a 0% tax levy by the school district. The school tax would have still went up because there's other factors that this town provides and that the state provides that influences your taxes. And I understand the frustration. We're in the process of setting up a meeting with a tax assessor for town of Huntington to try and get a little bit more answers into this, because this is something that we wouldn't typically see. We would see, for the most part, equalization rate would stay pretty much the same, assessed values would pretty much stay the same, but this year they went down in both of those areas, and this was the impact. Again, if you have any questions, I know Mrs. Newman has been fielding a number of phone calls. I know some individuals have been speaking to members of the town that point back to the school district. I want to share the facts with my community, and I want to be clear that even if we went out with a 0% from last year to this year, there would have still been an increase in the school taxes because of the equalization rate and the assessed values of the homes in Huntington going down. Moving on, and there'll be an opportunity for questions from the board at the end, but I wanted to provide an update on security. So pretty straightforward. Last November, we provided an update. We had our covert consultant come in, talk a little bit about armed guards. We laid out a potential Commack model for armed guards. In terms of armed guards, they would remain outside of the school. They would not be in the buildings. Their firearm would be concealed. It would not be seen. They would be at every building, most likely looking at 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, and 1 at all the elementary schools, including Cedar Road. They would be present during the regular school day, say a half hour before the school day. Update. We've worked with our legal vendors who are on the bid list on January 10th. They have an opportunity to ask questions by January 24th, and then those vendors would submit their proposal by February 7th. And the goal is, if there is a vendor that submits a proposal that is in line with a potential Commack model, we would like to have them come in and present to the board on what that could possibly look like, things that they can share in public. There are some things they probably couldn't share in public, but we really want to make sure that we educate the community, the board, so that we're making the best decision to keep our children safe as we move forward and continue to increase security enhancements here in Commack School District. These are some hot topics. So moving on to regionalization. At this point, well, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because regionalization, if you're hearing this for the first time, regionalization was really meant to be what the state shared as an opportunity for districts to engage in local conversation about operational efficiencies and finding opportunities for students to access high-level coursework. Some of the examples that I've heard through this process, for example, there's a student upstate that wants to major in physics, but his high school doesn't have physics. He has to find a high school that has physics. That's not a Commack problem. Other examples of operational efficiencies. We have sports teams that we want to run, like fencing or swimming, And in some cases, we combined with Northport. They had somebody who wanted to fence, so they joined our team. We had a boys swimming team that we wanted to put out there, so we joined with Northport. And now we have those swimming teams. So we find opportunities to create these efficiencies, among others. But at this point, I'll share with you that when this first came out, the state adopted emergency regulations that basically were requiring districts, superintendents, working with the local BOCES, to engage in conversations about what I just shared, operational efficiencies, things of that nature. When they're looking to engage in conversations about how to increase opportunities for students at college-level coursework, I just had a conversation with Mrs. Lippenholtz. We have one student who's going to be presenting on Monday with Regent Tillis. He's leaving Commack High School with 39 college-level credits. I mean, he's basically a second semester sophomore when he enters college. So it's incredibly impressive, the number of college level. We're at 65 plus at this point at the high school. So again, that's really not a Commack problem. So they mandated those conversations. And then they said when BOCES puts together a regional plan that's going to go to the state and be approved, if you didn't agree with the activities in that plan, you did not have to participate. So now there was a lot of pushback. You know, you're requiring districts to engage in conversations that, for the most part, have always happened here organically. The presentation that I shared with you earlier, school districts all over Long Island, upstate, are coming to visit, finding out ways to replicate it. I mean, that is regionalization in its natural form. At this point, the commissioner has passed new regulations that make this entirely optional, this process. So you do not have to submit, or you do not have to participate in the planning process. There's no forced participation. If we opt out, we can't be compelled to participate in the regional plan for those who decide to participate. And if we do choose to opt out, districts must notify New York State Ed's Office of Education Policy in writing by January 15th. I would be more than happy to share my recommendations, but I think at this point I would really like to sort of create a conversation for the board to either ask questions, whether it's about security, your tax bill, or regionalization. Because I'd love to be able to make a decision tonight and then let the community know tomorrow morning or at some point tomorrow and share with them the direction that the district is moving in.
I think as a board, we should have the discussion first on regionalization, go from the last to the first. So again, in terms of regionalization, yes, been seeing the updates, definitely hear from the community, talking to other communities out there, and certainly I am not in favor of joining this regionalization whatsoever. I'm glad that the state finally capitulated the fact of making it optional, and certainly, you know, in preparation, you know, we've been talking to legal counsel about having a resolution to make sure that we can make our voices heard, so the community is heard, that gets codified in our minutes. So my recommendation as board members is that we will not be joining this regionalization, and thanks to the state for basically allowing us the opt-out provision. So I'll let the other board members then speak specifically on the topic of regionalization.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cox, for putting that slide and giving a little history about regionalization and the process. Obviously, you know, I've had to keep a close eye on this as well for many reasons. You know, I'm glad that, like Mr. Hartman, that we now have the opportunity to decide whether or not we are going to participate. I think that part of the initial things that we were hearing was there might have been opportunities for us to receive additional funding because we are what most people would consider a model district in many aspects. And during one of the presentations, there was that put in. Being now that in the most recent FAQs that is not tied to any financial compensation or any reduction of finances, which is always a concern as well. I agree. I am in favor of opting out of the regionalization. I think for everything that we've done here in Commack, We have certainly found ways to make things work and to, as you know, be presented, opportunities to showcase what we do on a regular basis. So I think the most important thing is, when these decisions come up, we take the time, we get the information, we don't rush to quick decisions, we allow it to play out, and that's what we allowed here to do. And I think, at the end of the day, we're able to say that we have the information now to make an educated decision. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hender.
I'm just curious, did we submit the strengths and needs, or we didn't even do that?
No, we did not.
We didn't do that. Okay.
And unfortunately, I apologize to my administrators who spent an inordinate amount of
Yeah.
time starting to fill that out.
Thank you for that.
But no, we have not inputted it.
We didn't give them anything. Okay.
No, they have all that information on my desk.
Okay. Yeah, I am absolutely for opting out of this entire process.
And, everything's been said, and I really wasn't, from the beginning, I really wasn't worried about this because I know that it really doesn't apply to Commack because we're such an excellent school district. So I'm all for opting out also.
No, thank you to the board. So what we'll do is I will put something together. I'll put a letter together to the State Education Department letting them know that we're going to be opting out. I will be sharing that letter with the community as well, and which kind of it'll list out some of the reasons why. We do have some, I personally have some significant concerns about the rollout. I think adopting emergency regulations and then making them optional and then providing an FAQ only after there's community pushback, it just seems like it wasn't rolled out in the best way. And I think when you really dig into it, Commack is not a school district where we're not willing to share. Clearly, we travel, we've been to national superintendent's conferences, NISBA conferences we've shared, and the feedback has been, we should probably start charging for these visits, but we're more than happy, to meet with schools who look at a school like Commack and they're like, no, we get it. You're a good-sized school district. We're a small district. Like, how we can't do that? And we spend some time with them saying, no, you can do this. You can create opportunities for students to think about school differently and create different pathways that are aligned with their interests. So we are a school district that shares often. And that's not something that we're going to shy away with because we truly believe in the value of education. We truly believe in the trajectory that Commack is headed in. And if we have the opportunity to see some of that replicated in other schools, we're all for it. But I certainly don't want a school like Commack, who is on that trajectory, who is a model school, to then have to, I do not want to pull any of my resources, administrators, to feel like they need to work with other school districts that might not have the opportunities and be taken away from the work that they should be doing here in Commack. That's not to say that we won't, share or allow these visits, because we do. But thank you for that. I will make sure that that goes out to the community tomorrow. All right, so that's regionalization.
Mr. Hartman,
Yes.
I know now we've discussed it.
We have an official resolution to be read off tonight as part of I can read in the items removed consent agenda, just so the whole public hears the wording of how we're wording it.
Okay.
I'm not going to hide it in the consent agenda. I'm going to read it out for the public in items removed consent agenda, so everyone could hear the wording, it could go on record.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The second board discussion regarding armed guards, working our way backwards again. Thank you for the update, it's really great. So the RFPs go out and then basically come back in less than a month. I guess my question is, with the timing, do you think on the February 13th board meeting, the board would be prepared to review any of these RFPs?
It's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight?
It's going to be tight.
Hard to say, depending on the number of proposals
So-
we may receive. We do need to go through a rubric and
Right.
rank. That would be quite aggressive.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
so-
fine, that's fine. So I guess my ask then is to find other dates outside of the board meeting that we can maybe sit down and have some special meetings to discuss this, because I want to make sure that this is in the budget the budget meetings will probably start like March 13th or something like that. So, as a board member, I want to make sure that, again, we're in favor of this, we've already discussed this already, that we're moving this process along and the community can have any input before we get deep into the budget season itself, so. That's my thoughts. Glad for the updates, and just we'll have some special dates for special meetings to discuss it. Any other comment from the board on armed guards?
Yes, just quickly. In regards to, we talked about what the Commack model would look like. We spent some time last meeting. We had, those discussions. If none of the RFPs come back describing what we would consider to be a Commack model, or if there were pieces that we had to, we weren't comfortable with language in, is there an opportunity then to go back with that company or companies and discuss that further before we award the RFP?
There would always be the opportunity for the board to either meet with the proposers to discuss perhaps changes that you want. There's also always the possibility for the board to put out a new RFP.
Okay.
So the board would have their options available to them. You're not locked into anything.
Great, thank you.
Where would that fall in our budget? Well, again, we have a sense of what the approximate cost would be, so the board could certainly have dollars allocated, as we move forward through the budget development process.
And also legally, I know we're giving, about a month, there's no time of it has to be, you're short time period as well.
If we put it up again.
Put that again.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions on taxes?
Yes, so back to the taxes, the white up, which I really thank, Dr. Cox was talking to me, and I was in shock when I saw the beginnings and looking on social media regarding that, and did do my own assessment as a 27-year resident in Huntington, in shock. I'll be honest with you, in shock of what's going on and how appalled I was. Had a half-hour conversation with the receiver tax offices, little discouraged on their ability to actually tell us how financially this is all set up, why all the assessed values go down. People can see clearly in the town of Huntington, the assessed value, every house is going for a lot more, why everything was significantly decreased. I think I befuddled them by asking them questions. Did ask twice for an in-person meeting, realizing that our timing for our next board meeting is on January 9th. I said I want a meeting before that period of time. Again, they didn't have any clear answers, and certainly they wanted to get their controller involved. But I kind of pressed the fact that, again, that you're determining the assessed values. You're the one who's lowering all these values down in here, and it consequentially not penalizing all the residents of the town of Huntington based on this fact. No clear answers, no clear descriptions. As Dr. Cox said, we're going to keep working on it. But I said, the average taxpayers here are probably going anywhere from, I've seen $1,200 up to $3,000. And the other thing is I get the letter in the mail, and there's nothing in here that describes why it went up, how it went up. There's nothing describing why your tax bill went up. Senior citizens' taxes could have gone up $2,000, and they have no idea why, right? And they're on fixed income. So as a resident, not just the board member, really appalled by our town, the way they're handling it, pushing it off to the district, pushing it off into Miss Newman. It's Miss Newman's fault. I'm like, it's not Miss Newman's fault. That's nothing to do with the school itself. And glad we had the opportunity to raise it up to the public for them to understand. And again, if you do have questions regarding how all these calculations are done, certainly we can sit down and go over with you. But I am trying to find a way that we can, fortunately it's too late, right? But this trend continues. We are basically marching our way out of, like I said, the 0% tax increase still shows a significant impact on the town of Huntington, which really is unacceptable, with no direct answers why it was done this way. So more to follow up. Hopefully we'll have more an update at our next board meeting is directly right after we come back on January 9th. So hopefully they'll entertain a meeting and we can give you some more feedback and updates. So I just want you to know that, again, I'm in shock and dismay as everybody else is.
Right. Any other questions from the board? And now we're going to ask Ms. Longo to come in and share with us her State of the District science presentation. Thank you so much. Yep.
Hello.
For having me. I'm very excited to highlight some of the awesome things that are happening in things like science. Good? Yes. So I am really enjoying my time here at Commack. I have to lead with that. I love the fact that we have such a welcoming community, and our teachers are working really hard. Our students are so much fun. Today I was watching first graders talking about how lonely trees are found in places that you wouldn't expect them. So it's really a lot of fun. And I want to take you through some of the work that we've been doing as a district, K through 12 in science. I'll briefly talk about some curriculum and New York State Science Learning Standards alignment we've been doing. I definitely want to highlight our new agricultural education program. And of course, we want to look at science above and beyond. So New York State has adopted the NGSS standards, but we took a little shift and we call it the New York State Science Learning Standards. That approach is really three-dimensional learning, incorporating science and engineering practices with disciplinary core ideas and cross-cutting concepts for students to really explore and couple practice with the content that they're learning. As early as kindergarten, the children are really exposed to the three main areas of science: life science, earth and space science, and physical science. And it is also coupled with an engineering design. What's great about the NISLIS approach is that each grade level is a progression of learning. So the foundational knowledge that they learn in kindergarten through second grade is then built again between third and fifth grade, and again in the middle school band, and so forth when they get into high school. And it's becoming real evident as we see the students rising these past few years when this shift is happening, and they're making connections to their prior years of learning. So what it would look like if you visited any of our classrooms, students would be trying to make sense of something. They're definitely engaged in scientific discourse, which we call argumentation, and they're free to notice and wonder. It's really what we call a hands-on, minds-on experience, and they're applying their knowledge to applications of science. So I just took a little snippet from each grade level to show you from earliest kindergarten, they're working collaboratively. They're engaging in discussions with their classmates, experimenting, creating models, and then revising. They're talking about forces and interactions and changing the heights of ramps to see the effects of little cars going down and how far they go. In first grade, we just finished the animal survival unit, and they had a lot of time of why camouflage is so important to animal survival. We are starting, or one school might have just done it this week, making ice cream, one of the favorites. And we were able to now start working with Whitson's so that not only were they able to make the ice cream in the scientific way, but then they were able to now eat a safe ice cream cup or a lemon ice. It was torturous for them to make ice cream and say, no, you can't eat it. But we want to keep them safe. So, that's been working out nicely, and they're super excited. When we get into the intermediate levels, we're taking it up a notch. So the third, fourth, and fifth graders are really looking at creating different devices. So in third grade, they were working on creating a magnetic lock using the magnetic laws of attraction and repulsion. The dissecting owl pellets is really gross, but they love it. So they really look at the, they actually have to look at how internal and external structures of animals support their survival and their growth by dissecting what an owl kind of regurgitates. I know. The grosser it is, the more fun it is. And then in fifth grade, there's a little picture of them making goo when they were really exploring the properties of matter to see what made changes. In the intermediate levels, New York State has some New York science investigations that have been embedded throughout the curriculum. These are like extensive labs, if you want to look at it that way. And there's a lot of rigor in this. It's really, really challenging, not only the students, but the teachers, right? It's a shift for them too. So the four investigations are the circle of life, light it up, what's in the bag, and cloud in the bottle. And we thought it was best to embed those investigations where they naturally lay in the curriculum. So the students are learning and applying that knowledge. We actually did move one of them, Cloud in the Bottle, really aligns with third grade, but it was so heavy for them to do. So we're doing it as a review for the ELS exam in fifth grade and, you know, having the students work with that, familiar with it. I'm seeing some head shakes. Yeah.
He said he got it to work, and I could not figure out how to
It's
get
so
it to work
hard,
for my
yeah.
students. I was like, well, what did you do?
It's
that I wasn't
temperamental.
doing?
And that's part of the discussion that we have with even teachers that are getting frustrated, right? We have to go into then a conversation of, well, sometimes when things fail, we fail it forward. You know, let's talk about why didn't it work, you know, and how could we make shifts and pass that on to the students so that they don't feel so discouraged and they are making progress even though it might look like a failure. With that, you know, there's a lot of scientific terminology that has shifted, and it's very heavy, the verbiage and the language in the cluster questions that are coming up, the investigations that the students are exposed to. So we're really trying to embed this scientific terminology in their everyday language and learning, so it's not a shock for them. It's not a separate vocabulary list for them to learn. And this terminology goes from kindergarten. They're making claims. They're, you know, gathering evidence. They're having reasoning, and they're justifying their answers. And it goes right up until, you know, their 12th grade and beyond. So it's great that they're getting exposure to it at whatever level they can. Of course, we have our new agricultural education pilot that is running in the intermediate schools. We have, we have 1/3, 1/4, and 1/5 grade class from each intermediate school participating in this pilot. And we have hopes of expanding this opportunity to more students starting next year. These students are learning really the importance of whole foods and the process of agriculture, including life cycles and the difference between planting seeds or seedlings, what plants need to survive, agricultural stressors like insects or animals, drought. We had a drought this year, so we really were able to, you know, look at how that affected or impacted the growth of our our plants that we were waiting to grow. And shade, where in the farm we planted when we expected some things to grow and they didn't. And then we most recently did some harvesting of the celery that we grew, which was a great product, very nice and hardy. If you ever want to grow something, grow celery. The students loved, we cut open their tomatoes that we were growing and we extracted seeds. We taught them how that we're going to dry them out, and then in the springtime we'll replant them. So we're looking at the different life cycles, which also connects to our learning in the science curriculum. So everything is really interconnected, and they're really getting an opportunity to apply the skills that they're learning. We were on the news. Yeah, thank you.
A school district on Long Island is growing the minds of its students in a new hands-on agricultural program. Carolyn Gussoff covers the island and brings us to Commack's own teaching farm.
It's just amazing. We love watching their eyes. Hey, there's something here that I haven't seen before and I get to do.
Out of the schoolhouse and onto the farm.
We are going to plant today Swiss chard.
An outdoor classroom of sorts is teaching agriculture to Commack School District students.
So small hole. Appreciating where your food comes from. I think that is the fundamental piece. And being outside in nature.
This 6-acre farm has been in the possession of the Commack School District for decades, but much of it is leased out. Now, in this pilot program, a patch is dedicated to farming, and the first farmers, 3rd to 5th graders from Burr Intermediate School.
Those leaves need the sunlight to grow.
It's hands-on learning of math and science, nature and culture through planting.
We've had this farm here for years, and we really wanted to bring it back to life. So what better way to bring it back to life than to take what they're learning in the classroom and see it in action.
We planted radish and Swiss chard.
What's going to happen to them?
They're going to grow and grow and grow.
The kids will be back to harvest what they've planted in just 4 weeks and showing them what's possible to grow in the fall. Tomatoes, cabbage, celery, planted from seedlings just 6 weeks ago.
I love nature, and it's so beautiful, when you really get to see it grow.
Kids not only take their harvest, but also lessons home with them.
We've had so many kids say, oh, I talked to my parents about this and they thought it was so cool, and I taught them how to plant.
There are so many ways that I think that this enriches their lives and their schooling. And if we can plant that seed Now their interests will just grow.
What do you think?
Really nice.
The hope is the program will follow these kids through middle school and high school, where the science goes even deeper. In Commack, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS News, New York.
And you heard Carolyn mention that the kids get to bring some of that food home and the rest of it is donated. True farm to table.
We're not up to donation levels yet, so relax. Maybe next year. They really enjoy every time the bus lets them off on the farm. The excitement of their faces is just breathtaking. I have to give a real shout out to Mr. McGrath, who's building this program, Dr. Santarello, who's with me on the farm, and Mr. McGrath on those long days, and definitely, obviously, all of you for allowing this to happen. So we really appreciate it. We're excited to see where that takes us. As we move into middle school, we are not spiraling those life and physical and earth and space sciences in 1 year. Instead, we segment them out. So in 6th grade, we focus on life science. And the students in these pictures are actually learning about the abiotic needs of terrestrial and aquatic organisms. And they use that knowledge to build their own mini ecosystems. And they work with those little ecosystems throughout this semester. When they move into 7th grade, we focus on physical sciences, and we talk about the application of energy transformations, and specifically we design and test windmills, and we make solar ovens that convert solar energy into thermal energy, or the windmills that convert the wind energy to mechanical or eventually electrical energy. I don't know, can I get this video to play, you think, Mike? It's just a little snip, just click it. No. Ah, now we're both clicking.
Yeah, you're allowed to do that. Yeah, I saw that. That's all you guys see.
Really, it's just get so excited about their progress. It's a lot of fun to see. The New York State science investigations that I mentioned in the intermediate levels are also present in the middle school levels. There are 4 that align to our curriculum. And again, we put those in where they naturally fit in the curriculum. So we do It's Alive in 6th grade, all mixed up, sorry, and Cool It in 7th grade because they align to the physical sciences. And How's the Weather Up There really belongs with earth and space science, so we use that as a lab with our earth science classes that are at the middle school. We offer a number of middle school enrichment courses, math and science research, objective detectives or forensics. The students really enjoy that. Robotics is always packed as well. STEM, they get to do a lot of discoveries. They're building roller coasters. That's what they're doing in that picture there. And I am excited to share that we will be launching a new Project Lead the Way medical detectives course starting in the next school year. And this medical detectives course is really it's really exciting to see that the students will be able to play the role of a real-life medical detective so they can collect and analyze medical data and diagnose disease. This will give them a nice foundational experience that can further be developed if we move into the schools of engineering and applied sciences and the School of Medicine at the high school. And breaking news, we just got informed yesterday afternoon that we received a $10,000 grant to help support the implementation of this program.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to get back to me for a while, and perfect timing, right? You're welcome, Laura. In high school, we are continuing to do those curriculum shifts to align with NISLIS. This year, it's very heavy in the earth science and biology courses, so we're shifting earth science to earth and space science, and biology is still named biology, but both of these curricula are very robust in nature. We are aligned. In earth and space science, we're following the New Visions curriculum, and in biology, we're looking at the Illinois storyline, and the teachers are really doing a great job pulling their hair out at night sometimes, but they're really working hard with their students, and it's all kind of coming to fruition. The new Regents administration for these 2 exams, we had an option to do the first the first release of this Regents this June of 2025, but we opted as a district to wait one whole year to do it in June 2026, hoping that we can get our eyes on, some samples of what they're shifting towards. Although the Regents is not changing for chem and physics this year or next, we are still working on that alignment and shifting the way that we assess students. We're exposing them to more phenomenon-based questions and clusters. So, it's not going to be a hard shift when it does occur. The high school has a number of high school electives that we offer for all levels of learners, anything from an IB level to a college level and to just a nice high school paced level. Something for everybody is in there. We have a very successful science research program and STANMAC program, which I'm sure I will be sharing with you throughout this school year, hopefully. Some of our little above and beyonds in science, we proudly have an aviary at the middle school. And in this aviary, we have zebra finches and parakeets that are, in their own little habitat. It's right there on the hallway upstairs. I'm sure most of you have seen it, but it was built over 30 years ago and then renovated in recent years. We're trying, as we expand or update our curriculum, to really incorporate the aviary and try to include it in the habitats and survival features, especially of the particular birds. We also have a thriving apiary at Maryland Carl Farm, and we've created field trips with multiple grade levels last year so that they can learn the pollination process and the roles that bees play with agriculture, which is coupling nicely with our new agricultural education program. Our apiary has grown from 2 hives and has more than doubled in size. It continues to grow, and that's something that, our master beekeeper has to really manipulate or move bees or hives, otherwise it can really overtake the property. And we do harvest honey. The students learn that process of harvesting and bottling the honey. We do sell it at district events for our schools, to profit in the clubs. And it really helps the students turn their hobbies into careers or guides them to scholarship programs. It's now become a sustainable apiary, and it's supporting, like I said, our agricultural program, which is on the same property. The master beekeeper, Kathy Liberto, is a middle school teacher, and she is just everything about this. She can't, anytime you give her an opportunity to talk about the apiary, she's all on it. She would not let me leave the middle school today without bringing you a little something. So, she has some homegrown honey for you. Yes, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I could not leave here tonight without talking about the solar eclipse. Obviously, that was on April 8th of last school year, and every student, K through 12, participated in some capacity to the events that we had here at Commack. And it was either curriculum connections throughout the day or even various viewing parties. And we had big after-school events at the middle school and the high school that the students really enjoyed. I really have to, again, thank you for your support in purchasing these viewing glasses for everybody. That was an experience that a lot of people never had before, and something that they will take with them for the rest of their lives. So thank you again for letting that happen. And just a final little plug, we do a STEM night at the middle school that is really cool. It's really evolved in the past few years. This year, it will soon be next year, right? January 15th at Commack Middle School from 6 to 8 p.m. We have various stations that students can participate in activities, take things home with them. There's a lot of exploration for them, and we really open it to grades 4 through 8, but we never, shun someone away for their age. There's something for everybody there. We're doing things a little bit differently this year. In the 2-hour span, the first hour we'll have station activities, and then the second hour we are coupling with the Mad Science of Long Island, and they're going to do a fire and ice show in the auditorium for the students and me. I really, again, want to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to highlight the wonderful things that are going on in science, and for all of your support. Anytime I have ideas and you're saying yes to them, it's just really, I love it. Thank you to all the building administrators for allowing us to grow as a department. I have to give a shout out to my lead teachers and my lab attendants, that without them, I really couldn't do this job to its fullest capacity, and they find the best materials and supplies for us. And our science curriculum writers, K through 12, they do a phenomenal job with making these shifts, trying things out, and they have some tough skin when they get their feedback. So they really are doing a great job. Thank you all very much for having me. Do you have any questions?
Great presentation, Ms. Longo.
Thank
I mean,
you.
especially, seeing the Marion Carl Farm become something of a farm, which is great. I guess, not ask for you, but you've done such a wonderful job. I would like to see if we can expand the pilot out next year in a budgetary process to not include just, I know it's gonna be a lot more work for you, because I can imagine the work from having, one class, but just to see how we can scale it up and just mix up, because I think it's a great opportunity. I saw the picture with the cabbage.
Yeah.
That cabbage was huge. I
It
can't even
was.
imagine how big that was like that kid's, I think it's the picture of the kid's smile
Yep.
is what said it all, right? That
So that
cabbage
was
is
the
a-
Bonnie Cabbage contest,
Yes.
and we took first place in New York.
Yes.
That young man, Jackson, yeah, he won $1,000 for that.
So
It's
that's
huge. Yeah.
yeah. So like I said, as my ask is that we look at how we can expand that next year in our budget to include more grades 3 through 5, so they get more hands-on experience. So great. And again, tell her thank you for the honey. What happens with the bees in the wintertime? Where do they go?
They sleep. They stay there.
sleep.
Yeah, we winterize the hives. And
Winterize the hives and they sleep.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Good
I'm
to
learning
know.
a lot about these bees.
Yes.
The queen is right in the middle. The females are around her, and the guys, I'm sorry, you just die off.
Oh well.
Your job is just to keep us warm, and then you
keep
just
keep
get
everything
picked
warm.
off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow. Impressive. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Not so much question, but just a few comments. I echo what Mr. Hartman just said. Wonderful presentation. My son actually has been part of the pilot program this year, and I think one of the most exciting pieces of it, where we were driving by the Marion Carl Farm the other day, and he's been driving by it for the past 10 years of his life, and finally said, "Hey, look, there's the Marion Carl Farm." So, which is certainly something that we had hoped, and for some of us board members, we're on this journey for many, many years, and to see it come to fruition like this right now, and to see our kids being there and being educated is wonderful. So I would also love to see that pilot expand. And one of the things that you also, I was so glad you mentioned, was about the New York State science investigations. One of the pieces that isn't always mentioned is that all of the materials and resources needed to complete those investigations, was a non-funded mandate. So of course, we had to budget for that, but also trying to secure all of those resources was very difficult. So I know sometimes people ask, well, where does the money go? And this is a perfect example of something that in previous years we didn't have to budget for, but now each year many of those items are consumables, and we have to continue to budget for them to make sure that they can participate in these required New York State investigations. So thank you for that.
Sure, thank you.
This year was the big shift to 5th grade, so in administration and just in grade level. So to be able to get this all done, I know I was doing all 4 investigations in the last 2 months of school last year, and scouring for 1-liter bottles and those thermometers.
I know.
And the matches. It was a rough go. So
We
I
actually started
appreciate that.
implementing the investigations last year so that we could get a good handle on it. And now, like this year, the teachers are like, oh, okay, the investigations, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone gets all like
And
frazzled.
that you're doing it in where
their
it's
grade
supposed
level.
to be.
Mhm.
And we're,
Yep.
because last year we did it in 5th grade for
All of
like
them.
the life cycle, and they do
Yeah,
that
oh,
in
yeah.
3rd grade. So it was
And it
like
just
very-
doesn't make
they
sense
just-
to
Yeah,
them.
it just doesn't make sense. So I appreciate all that you're doing here, and the cabbage picture was probably
Yeah,
the
that
best.
was
I think I
great.
sent it last
Yes.
night. I sent this in last night. I was like, this is amazing. I'm so excited about this. So
Like
yeah,
15
to expand
pounds,
that.
I think, or something. 15.8 pounds.
Yeah, that was a little,
That's-
that was
That's
intense.
big cabbage.
But Project Lead the Way in the middle school is, I'm so excited to see that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
You'll
like
hear
a
from
big
when the-
fan. If
when-
we can expand that at some point to
Exactly.
elementary, I'd be
Oh, going
super
down,
happy.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I did it in 3rd grade.
Okay.
In my previous district, and it's just amazing, just the engineering and getting them into that hands-on, and it's, you know, if we can move that as far down as we can go, that would be great. But I'm excited. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, Laura, thank you for presenting.
all very much.
I just want to thank you. Laura, since joining the district, has been an absolute asset. Her knowledge of science K through 12 is invaluable.
Thank you.
You have an amazing department that goes above and beyond as far as the agricultural program. Glenn, Ryan, Drew, they
Yes.
have really taken just a meeting and an idea and turned it into something that is super special. And Kathy Liberto, if you're watching, she's she's the ringleader of the bee apiary. She's responsible for this honey. I just ran into her the other day, and it's unbelievable that, you know, Commack School District has its own farm and it's up and running, and we will always look to try and see if we can expand it if possible. But thank you for, you know, helping to spearhead this and get behind it.
Of course.
Well done.
Thank you. Okay.
We move on to committee reports. First up, Mr. Hartman with the Legislative Advocacy Committee.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Cox. So in terms of the Legislative Advocacy Committee, again, it's a student-led group, and again, shout out to Dr. Santarello, Mr. Biaggi for working all hours, off the hours, to work with the team and making sure that they're getting stuff done at 7 a.m., 5 p.m., all the different schedules you're working with. So I greatly appreciate you continuing to work with them, and we look forward to our time in March when we get the opportunity to speak to our legislators, which I know is coming up pretty soon. So looking to hear what the kids have to say, and Ms. Verga put the dates on my calendar, so I'm trying to secure them to listen to all the good things there. And thank you for all the administrators there. I could see some of our administrative staff there who are supporting day in and day out. So again, I see some people here in the audience. Again, thank you for what you've done to help support our students day in on this committee.
So we're going to have Ms. Pulliam talk a little bit about the update on the Commack Technology Steering Committee.
So, hi everyone. Ms. Dana Schultz and I met for the first session of the Technology Steering Committee at the end of November. We had a huge turnout. It was great. We are broken out into 3 different subcommittees over the next 2 months. So we have the Instructional Technology and Innovation Committee. We have the Student Information and Communication Committee. That's really the focus on Infinite Campus and Parent Square. And then there's the Infrastructure and Facilities Technology Committee. Always still open. Anybody that would like to join, please feel free to reach out to me. We will add you to one of the committees. The next session of committees are going to be meeting virtually. So, those of you who don't have to physically be there, we are going to be gathering back again in March for a large committee where all of the subcommittees will share out. The virtual links and information about these committees were sent out on Monday, December 9th. So again, if you didn't receive the information or you'd like to join and you have not yet reached out, we have a lot of wonderful things going on. There's over 60 people on these committees, all 3 of them. And just to give you a little preview, this is a little video that we made out of the Discovery Den from Northridge.
Happy holidays from the Discovery Den at Northridge!
Shout out to Chris Dennis, the library media specialist, who is also a part of this committee, who's been doing a lot of work with Ms. Schultz and I. But again, all of this, everything that we're doing on this committee comes back to the kids and making learning exceptional for them. So I invite all of you to join, and I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting.
All right. Mr. Russo, if you could just give us a quick update on the Multicultural Committee and the work that they're doing?
Sure. So Multicultural Committee continues at this point, really very much student-driven with the help of Ms. DiRienzo and Ms. Lascano. And what we've been doing now is there have been a lot of activities and things like that we've worked with the lower grade levels on. But our big event, obviously, is our Multicultural Festival that will be held on Saturday, April 5th at the middle school at 12 o'clock. We're, again, continuing to try to grow that, and the next communication you'll hear from us will be about seeking some parent volunteers as we look to really kind of make a focus on family tradition and culinary traditions of those families. So be on the lookout for that in the new year, and we look forward to a great festival this year.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. And that concludes our administrative report.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Hender to read a Board of Education statement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hartman. Our board meeting has two opportunities for public comment, one where the public can comment on specific agenda items only, and one at the end of the meeting where the public can comment on other school district matters. Please take a white card if you have a question on specific agenda items, and a green card if you have comments during public participation on other school matters. Comments must be no longer than 3 minutes. The district clerk will call each person up by a number. We are monitoring the time and will let speakers know when their time is completed. When called up to the microphone, please state your name and whether you are a district resident. Please only speak to the board directly. The board appreciates the community's feedback. These commentary periods are not times for public debate or for answering specific questions where a direct answer cannot be provided. We will make a note of any questions where the answer is not known and provide a response as soon as possible to the person asking the question. Public comment does not allow for positive or negative statements about a specific employee as it relates to his or her job performance. Any matters related to specific students will not be discussed. The president shall terminate the right of any speaker if they are overly lengthy, repetitive, disruptive, disrespectful to anyone, and or offensive, as well as if the public becomes unruly and lacks respect for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hender. So again, since the board did have discussion today regarding regionalization, the tax bills, and armed guards, if anyone has comments on those items, they could bring it up during this session as well, because they were agenda items that the board did discuss. So with that, Ms. Berger, please go ahead and start the.
So if anyone has a white card, please get up, number one. Please state your name.
Hi, I am Jessica LaFont, and I am a mother of 3 children in this school district. I was actually planning on speaking on a totally different matter at the end of the meeting, but listening to the armed guard part of the presentation kind of made me feel like moved to speak about it. As a general comment, the idea of weapons on school campuses, even when they remain outside the building, makes me very, very nervous. It gives me great pause. I'm aware of the unfortunate current environment we live in, but I hope the board is taking into account the seriousness of this move. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
White card, number 2. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Anastasia. I'm also a resident of Commack, and I have 2 children that go to the schools. Very happy, great school district. I don't think 3 minutes is a lot of time, but I'll make it really quick in regards to the security as well. I'm just wondering what kind of timeline we're looking at, because I know that I have a lot of friends in the school district. There was an incident in November on the school bus where a child was carrying some type of weapon in his school bag, and the children saw it, and a parent called the next day. The Suffolk County Police Department was involved. They tried to get a warrant to search more, and I don't know where that progressed into, but it's very concerning to me. It was also on the ride home, and the following day my daughter texted me, "Please pick me up, I'm scared. I heard somebody had a weapon in their bag." So I don't know what the follow-up is with something like that. Usually when there's some type of incident or something that's questionable at the school, we get an email and then a follow-up email, but there was no follow-up.
Okay. And that was at the middle school?
Yes.
Okay. I would contact the middle school directly, asking for follow-up from that incident if you want specific answers to that.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't be able to provide that here in public.
Okay, so what is the timeline for security? When are you looking to?
For the armed security?
Yes.
Is that the question? Sure. So the timeline is that on January 10th, 2025, we would mail out to the vendors the request for proposal for those that are on the bid list. And then they have the opportunity to submit questions by January 24th. And then they have to submit their proposals. The vendors have to submit their proposals by February 7th. And then as Mr. Hartman had mentioned, he's hoping that we could possibly put together a special board meeting where if there is a vendor that seems to be a good fit
Right.
for the district, that they would come and present. As far as the timeline, it would have, if it's something that the community is going to support, it would have to be built into the 25-26 budget. And then if it is something that the community would support, it would go into effect on July 1, 2025.
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna get into what I support or I don't support, but I will also tell you that I've spoken to more than one teacher at the high school who has told me that they're supposed to have each individual classroom door locked, and they don't because it's an inconvenience to them. Sometimes it interrupts during class time. You know, a student leaves, a student comes back. I'm a little concerned as a parent as far as what's being put forth until a decision is made. There was just a school shooting the other day in Wisconsin. So these things, they keep the seem happening every few months. And
No, absolutely, it's devastating.
what's being implemented right now?
As far as the protocols are, the doors are expected to remain in the locked position. We will be meeting with administrators and our director of security to discuss whether or not those doors, if there's going to be a protocol to have them in the closed position, but no decision has been made in that effect. In most cases, when there is a lockdown, the teachers are sweeping the hallways before they close the door. So they sweep the hallways, the door has remained in a locked position, so then they just close it and it stays locked. We have an unbelievable, if you're asking what's being done right now, we have an incredible security presence that I would put up against any other district. We have patrol cars that are outside every single one of our primary and elementary buildings. We have security guards that are also on the interior of those buildings. They do perimeter checks. They're the eyes out there, their heads on a swivel, and that occurs at every single building. You will see the presence. You come to the high school, there's a car that blocks the loop. You can't even get down the loop in the high school without running into that security first.
Okay. I mean, perhaps, on that comment that you just made, it might be a good idea to look into inside security, with people who are actually vested in the community versus just looking for outside vendors. I don't know if that's something that you guys have put thought into.
You're talking about armed security?
Yes.
So I know that this isn't an opportunity really for back and forth questions, but I do want to clear something up that when we're looking at armed security, one of the reasons that we're looking at vendors, our current security guards, who are amazing, are in our civil service positions. The current position that they're in for civil service does not allow them to carry firearms. There is another title that allows civil service guards to carry firearms, but there's a very strong possibility that they might not be on that list. So if we go through a vendor and one of our security guards is interested in truly becoming an armed security guard, we want to create an avenue where they could have the opportunity to go through the training and become an armed security guard through that vendor.
All right. I just, the last time I was here was several years ago after there was another shooting in Florida. And I'm sure, I don't want this to come as a threat by any means, but I don't want to be up here when something does happen. And then it's like, well, we're waiting to put this through, we're waiting to put that through. I mean, it shouldn't take that long to put something into effect. You're saying you're after the children's well-being. That should be like a main priority right now.
No, and I agree with you 100%, but one of the things for school districts is that the cost of armed guards is over $1 million, and it wouldn't be financially prudent if we had $1 million sitting in our budget without being allocated to anything, waiting to be spent on something, and then to say that we have that money to be able to spend on armed guards. So at this point, it's not budgeted for, but should the community support it, we would look to budget for it for the 25-26 budget cycle.
Okay, hopefully sooner than later.
Thank you for your feedback.
White card number 3. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Beth Hollander. I'm a mother of a middle school student. I just wanted to bring an article to your attention. This is from the Journal of the American Medical Association from February of 2021 regarding the presence of armed school officials during mass school shootings from 1980 to 2019. And the article states, I did a search just on armed guards in schools. So there was no bias in my search. And the The article says armed guards were not associated with a significant reduction in rates of injuries. In fact, controlling for the aforementioned factors of location and school characteristics, including school type, grade level, use of lockdown drills, et cetera, the rates of death were 2.83 times greater in schools with an armed guard present. So it's just something to take into consideration when we're thinking about armed guards in the schools.
No, I appreciate that. I won't get into the details, but we do spend a tremendous amount of time evaluating every single one of these cases that happens across the country, and they are absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
I will say there are some instances where there are armed guards on those campuses, but the training, I would say, is not adequate when the armed guards are outside and not responding immediately. Obviously, the purpose of armed guards is the response time. So if they're not
Also
responding...
not responding inside the school,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
Ms. Hollander, do you have a copy of that article that you could leave with Mrs. Verga, just so that
Thank you.
we can continue to stay informed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. White card number 4. White card number 5. Any other white cards?
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, moving on to our correspondences. So there are 4 correspondences as listed on the agenda. And as a follow-up from the last meeting, Ms. Verga, myself, and Dr. Cox got together. We wanted to make sure that every correspondence is being attended to. And again, Ms. Verga assured me, again, we looked at all the emails that went directly to the BOE email address, and they all were addressed as part of this agenda. Again, if you need to get a hold of the board directly, it's just best to copy the BOE email address. Again, Ms. Verga is copied on that. And then certainly a lot of the responses, right, that come back out to the community, the board directs them back to the superintendent, who copies us back on that, because a lot of them are administrative matters where the board utilizes the superintendent to respond to those areas. So I wanted to make sure that the public was aware of those facts and updates regarding how board messages are concerned, emails are concerned. Also, each board member, as posted on the website, has an individual email address. So if you want to contact the board member directly, our email addresses are posted on our website as well. And the board member has the opportunity to respond to you directly as well. Moving onward, can I get a motion to adopt the resolution to adopt the following donations as listed, A through E? Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Again, on behalf of the board, we wanted to thank all the different people who donated throughout this year. It's greatly appreciated. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the November 14th, 2024 Board of Education meeting? Motion. May I get a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. On to the personnel agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the personnel agenda? Motion. Can I get a second? Second. Discussions again. We have 2 people in the audience, John Maley and Krista Myers. Can you stand up to be recognized as part of your tenure for this year? Thank you. Thank you very much for all what you do, and great congratulations again on behalf of the board for your tenure. Great. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items as presented and or amended numbers 2 through 13? Motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the lease agreement with Building Blocks for the purpose of installing window film to the interior windows inside the courtyard at the Saginaw Coast Elementary School and authorize the board president to sign the same? Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, items removed from consent agenda. This is a longer one. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approved the first reading of policy number 1330, appointments and designation by the Board of Education, policy 1336, duties of the extra classroom activity funds central treasurer and facility auditor, policy 1510, regular board meetings and rules, quorum and parliamentary procedure, policy 1530, minutes, policy 3220, office of service, assistance animals, policy number 3310, public access to records, policy 3420, non-discrimination and anti-harassment in the district, policy 3421, Title IX in sex discrimination, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education waive the second reading and moves to adopt the policies tonight. Could I get a motion? First, second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. And there's this, as discussed, as part of the reorganizational plan. This is the resolution that's going to be added on tonight. So whereas it, on the December 2024 meeting, the Board of Regents adopted the regulations related to regionalization plans, subpart 124-2, on a permanent basis. And whereas a new 124-2-8 which provides in part that a school district may elect not to participate in the development of the regionalization plan. Now, therefore, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, be it further resolved that pursuant to the regulations of the Commission of Education 124-2-8, the district elects not to participate in the development of reorganization plan, and be it further resolved that the superintendent of schools is directed to notify the Commission of Education of the district's decision to not participate in the development of the regionalization plan prior to the deadline. Can I get a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Can I get a motion, excuse me, I'm going to acknowledge the receipts from Bond Schoeneck & King for the month ending October 31st, 2024. I'm going to acknowledge receipt of the October 24 financial reports as listed below. I'm going to acknowledge the statement of professional service rendered by Louis John Avalon Ailey's LLP. Acknowledge receipt of the internal claim orders monthly update, as well as to acknowledge receipt of the Committee on Special Education dates as listed, and acknowledge receipts of the Committee on Preschool Education dates as listed. The Board of Education of the Commack Union Free School District shall hold its regular meeting on Thursday, January 9th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at the Hubs Administration Building, 480 Claypits Road, East Northport, New York. It is anticipated that the board will make a motion for the purpose of adjourning into executive at this time, and at 8 p.m. the board will reconvene in public session for the purpose of holding its regular business meeting. I'm now going to open up the floor for comments from the public on matters relating to the district.
Okay, those are the green card. If anyone would like to speak, that would be green card number 1. Come up.
Hi, it's me again. All right, so just again, my name is Jessica Lafont, and I am a parent of 3 children in the Commack district. So tonight, I wanted to highlight a need for the parents in this community, particularly those of our youngest bus riders in the primary and intermediate level, for a bus tracking app for the district. Unfortunately, bus arrival times, particularly for the primary school buses, are inconsistent, sometimes running as late as 20 minutes. One factor for the delay is understandably due to the young age of these primary school riders and the necessity for longer boarding and disembarking times to accommodate their needs. The bus company that Commack contracts with already uses the app called Here Comes the Bus, and the app's access is currently available to and only used by our transportation department. I propose that we open up access to this application to any parent in the district that is interested in using it. We have a petition that was signed by 132 parents in the district that agree with this request and want the access. Providing the parents access to this application would improve student safety by modernizing bus arrival communications to ensure efficient boarding and disembarking. This app would also improve and simplify the afternoon bus drop-offs by ensuring there won't be any missing parents at the stop, which can cause delays on the route. This would also cut down on routine calls to the transportation department during bus routes and keep the lines of those lines of communication open for emergencies. These applications are already in use all over the country, including Long Island districts that don't own their buses, like West Islip, and our neighboring district of Hauppauge. Commack has come so far with using specialized apps for almost everything in this district, including My School Bucks for lunch funds and Parent Square for school and teacher to parent improved communications. So I ask, why wouldn't we use an app to improve and streamline transportation communications? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just would love to comment.
Oh, absolutely. You feel free to comment.
Can't help myself. No, I'm sorry. Because listen, if there's something that comes up and I can share a little bit of insight, we were looking into bus apps and it was part of the current, what we use. However, there were a number of glitches, and the last thing we want to do is have information out there that's misinformation, and then the parents are thinking that they're going to get there at this time and they don't get there. But I do want to share with you that it is an ongoing discussion, okay? So it's not no indefinitely, but it's something that we're looking at, and if there's something that is a really good fit for the district that's not going to have a lot of glitches, then we would probably consider it, but we're just in conversation about it at this point.
And I understand about the glitches because I've heard about that.
Okay.
However, I would gladly take something, glitches and all, just so I'm not flying blind, because sometimes it might work. But I would rather have that information. And I also just wanted to, one more comment about that, because I know people have asked, why don't you use an AirTag in their backpack or
Life 360,
Apple devices? The AirTags only are effective when they are within distance of an iPhone to ping off of. So my kindergartner might have an AirTag, but if the bus driver, like ours does, has an Android, there's no ping. We have no idea where the bus is. It's completely useless until they arrive in school and they come within distance of one.
Okay.
And then as far as the devices go, my children are only right now in the primary and intermediate level. I'm fairly certain those that the schools do not want iPhones and iWatches coming into the school. They
And I don't mean to
advise
cut you off,
against it.
but I just wanted to let you know.
Done.
I didn't want you to walk away tonight thinking that this is not something that we're not, that we're not paying attention to. We are.
No, I appreciate that, and like I said, I'll take anything I can get, glitches and all.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, green card number 2. Green card number 3. Any other green cards?
All right. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Before we
Oh,
take that
something
motion,
else.
just want to wish everyone
I
a
was
very happy holiday season. Our staff works so hard during the year, and enjoy the next 2 weeks off. And
Yes.
parents, enjoy the time with your children for the next 2 weeks. I know I certainly will.
You'll be happy to
with
give them
mine.
back on January 6th, 2025. Yes. On behalf of the board, again, thank you all. I also will be enjoying the 2 weeks off my job. So with that, can I get a motion, please?
Motion.
For a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Have a good night, everybody.